Does a game being old automatically mean it's bad? Or are some games so good that even years after release, they're still worth playing today? In this video, we're taking a look at 20 games that have stood the test of time and remain incredible experiences even years after they first launched. So if you're ready, let's not waste any time and jump right in. Watch Dogs 2. What does it actually feel like to be a hacker in San Francisco? This game gives you that experience better than almost any other. Watch Dogs 2 completely abandoned the heavy, gloomy atmosphere of the first game and replaced it with a colorful, energetic, and genuinely fun open world. As Marcus Holloway, you're hacking traffic lights with your phone, spying on enemies with drones, controlling security systems, and making the entire city feel like it's sitting in the palm of your hand. That feeling of power never really goes away, and it keeps a smile on your face throughout the entire experience. The recreation of the Bay Area is incredibly detailed and believable. From the streets of San Francisco to Silicon Valley itself, the game constantly pokes fun at modern tech culture, social media, and big corporations. The satire is clever enough that even while you're laughing, you're also thinking about how close it feels to reality. The soundtrack fits perfectly, the movement feels smooth, and even years later, the gameplay still feels modern. And honestly, it's hard to find another open-world game where hacking mechanics feel this satisfying. Just Cause 3. Forget the laws of physics. This game looks at you and says, you can blow up absolutely everything. And it actually means it. Just Cause 3 is the peak of open-world chaos game. As Rico Rodriguez, you're flying between buildings with your grappling hook, gliding across mountains with your wingsuit, hijacking fighter jets in midair, and leveling entire military bases completely on your own if you want to. The story exists, sure, but it's mostly an excuse to let you create your own action movie. The island of Medici is enormous, beautiful, and most importantly, highly destructible. Blow up a fuel station, and suddenly a chain reaction starts. Explosions spread across the base, bridges collapse, helicopters crash into buildings, and somehow the chaos keeps escalating. Half the fun comes from standing back and watching the destruction unfold. The grappling hook and wingsuit combination is still one of the most enjoyable movement systems ever created in an open-world game. There isn't really winning or losing here. There's just you, a physics engine, and unlimited explosive freedom. You arrive in a fictional country hidden in the foothills of the Himalayas, ruled by a ruthless dictator. What happens next is entirely up to you. Far Cry 4 delivers one of the richest open worlds in the entire series. The mountains of Kyrat, the temples, the forests, and the wildlife all feel alive and worth exploring. Then there's Pagan Min, one of gaming's most unforgettable villains. Charismatic, dangerous, unpredictable, and somehow strangely likable at the same time. Every scene with him carries tension. Hunting animals, liberating outposts, flying gyrocopters through the mountains, and parachuting into enemy territory all blend together so naturally that hours disappear without you noticing. One moment you're being chased by a tiger, the next moment you're storming an enemy fortress with a grenade launcher, and somehow it all feels like part of the same adventure. Even today, Far Cry 4 feels like a lesson in how open-world games should be designed. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Some games are simply good. This game set the standard. Since its release in 2015, The Witcher 3 has become the benchmark for modern RPG. As Geralt of Rivia, you explore a world so dense and so alive that every village, every forest, and every ruined tower feels like it has a story waiting to be discovered. Even side quests are written with the same level of care as the main story, and that's something very few RPGs have ever achieved. Searching for Ciri, hunting monsters for coin, navigating political conspiracies, and deciding the fate of kingdoms all depend on your choices, and those choices carry real weight. Sometimes you'll make a decision and only discover its consequences 10 hours later. When that happens, you don't think the game did this. You think, I did this. The two expansions, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, are so good that many players consider them better than entire standalone games. Years have passed, but The Witcher 3 still sits at the center of almost every greatest RPG of all time discussion. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. You kill an orc. Before dying, he screams his name at you. And somehow that's one of the most ordinary moments in the game. Shadow of Mordor secured its place in gaming history because of the Nemesis system. Every enemy has its own personality, rank, memories, strengths, weaknesses, and personal grudge against you. An orc that defeats you gets promoted, grows stronger, remembers your previous encounter, and eventually returns to mock you. The result is a system so organic that every player's experience becomes completely unique. Mordor's dark atmosphere, Talion's mysterious past, and the incredibly fluid combat system inspired by the Batman Arkham games combine to create something unforgettable. The stealth mechanics and supernatural abilities make every encounter feel cinematic. Almost everyone who has played Shadow of Mordor has their own personal orc story. The captain who escaped 3 times, the enemy who kept returning with new scars, the rival who somehow became your greatest enemy. And honestly, that's one of the most special things a video game can ever accomplish. Red Dead Redemption, the story of a man trying to escape his past during the final days of the Wild West. Red Dead Redemption follows John Marston as he struggles to leave behind the man he used to be, but the past refuses to let him go. Even when you're simply riding horseback toward the sunset, this game manages to make you feel something because every landscape, every small town, and every abandoned building feels like a reminder that an entire era is coming to an end. The gunplay feels satisfying, the open world feels alive, and the story slowly takes you somewhere you never expected to go. Random encounters, bounty hunts, poker games, and late-night rides through the desert all help make the world feel authentic and believable. And that ending scene, I won't spoil it, became one of the most talked about moments in gaming history. It may live in the shadow of Red Dead Redemption 2 these days, but this game is a masterpiece in its own right. Rise of the Tomb Raider, the second chapter in Lara Croft's journey toward becoming a true hero. Rise of the Tomb Raider takes place in the frozen wilderness of Siberia, and that harsh environment becomes part of the experience from beginning to end. Lara is stronger now, more determined, and more experienced, but she's still vulnerable. That balance makes her feel incredibly human and believable. The tombs in this game contain genuinely challenging puzzles. They're not just decorations or optional side activities, they're carefully designed locations that demand observation and problem solving. Enemy encounters reward strategy. The environments are highly interactive, and the story slowly pulls you deeper into the secrets surrounding Lara's family. Crafting, hunting, survival mechanics, and exploration blend naturally with the action gameplay, creating one of the best balances between survival and adventure in the genre. By the time the credits roll, it feels like you've been part of Lara's journey yourself. Saints Row the Third. How can a game that refuses to take itself seriously be this much fun? Saints Row the Third threw away the rulebook for open-world games and replaced it with pure, unfiltered insanity. You can fight enemies using a giant purple toy weapon. You can jump out of an airplane without a parachute. The entire city becomes your playground, and somehow nothing ever feels too ridiculous. But underneath all that chaos is an incredibly well-designed gameplay loop. The deep customization options, huge weapon variety, absurd vehicles, and creative mission design all work together to keep you entertained for hours. The city of Steelport constantly throws something new at you, whether it's gang wars, bizarre side activities, or complete nonsense that somehow makes perfect sense within the game's world. If you're tired of GTA's seriousness, this game offers the complete opposite. This is the game that launched the golden age of the looter-shooter genre. Borderlands 2 set a standard for weapon variety that many games still haven't managed to surpass. There are millions of guns, and somehow they all feel different. Different manufacturers behave differently, shoot differently, and force you to play differently. Then there's Handsome Jack, one of the best-written villains in gaming history. Sarcastic, intelligent, hilarious, and genuinely dangerous at the same time. The Wastelands of Pandora, the unique playstyles of the 4 Vault Hunters, and the chaotic fun of co-op gameplay combine to create an experience that's dangerously addictive. One mission turns into 5, 5 turns into 10, and suddenly you've lost an entire evening. Boss fights, loot drops, character builds, and endless weapon hunting help define an entire genre. Dragon Age Origin, the game that proved an RPG could truly feel like your story. Dragon Age Origins begins with 6 completely different origin stories, and each one changes how the world reacts to you throughout the game. Starting as a human noble feels entirely different from beginning your journey as a Dalish elf or a dwarven commoner. The conversations between party members, the alliances you form, and the betrayals you experience all carry real emotional weight. When you lose a companion or make a difficult decision, you genuinely feel the consequence. The combat is tactical, the story is dark and mature, and the world feels like it exists beyond the player's action. Every kingdom, every faction, and every character seems to have its own motivations and history. You're running through the streets of Paris as an assassin in the middle of the French Revolution. Despite its technical problems at launch, Assassin's Creed Unity created one of the most visually impressive cities the series has ever seen. Climbing Notre Dame, disappearing into crowded streets, and planning assassinations in the middle of revolutionary chaos created an atmosphere that no other Assassin's Creed game has quite managed to replicate. The parkour system feels incredibly fluid, the city feels alive, and the historical detail is astonishingly meticulous. Thousands of NPCs fill the streets, protests erupt around every corner, and Paris constantly feels like a city on the edge of collapse. Arnaud's personal story of revenge becomes deeply intertwined with some of the biggest events of the revolution itself. The interiors of buildings, something surprisingly rare in open-world games, add another layer to exploration and stealth. After years of patches and improvements, Unity has become one of the best reasons to revisit the series. Even today, it offers one of the finest virtual recreations of Paris ever made. Moving through the shadows and clearing a room without anyone ever knowing you were there. Very few games can deliver that feeling. Splinter Cell Blacklist remains one of the finest stealth games ever made. As Sam Fisher, every movement mattered. Making too much noise, stepping into the light, or exposing yourself for even a second can put the entire mission at risk. But when everything goes according to plan, silently moving through an enemy compound undetected is unbelievably satisfying. The game allows allows for multiple playstyles. You can remain completely invisible, eliminate enemies aggressively, or combine both approaches depending on the situation. No matter which style you choose, the game rewards you for mastering it. The gadgets are fantastic, the mission variety keeps things fresh, and each operation creates its own tension and atmosphere. For stealth fans, Blacklist is still considered one of the best examples the genre has ever produced. The game that defined what playing as Batman should feel like. Arkham City throws you directly into a quarantined section of Gotham and simply lets you loose inside the chaos. Its combat system, the famous free-flow combat system, was so well designed that action games are still borrowing ideas from it today. Gliding across rooftops, grappling between buildings, and using Batman's gadgets all come together to create an experience that genuinely makes you feel like the Dark Knight. Joker, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face, Ra's al Ghul, and many others all have their own stories and their own unforgettable boss encounter. The Mr. Freeze fight alone is still considered one of the smartest boss battles ever designed. The side missions, detective work, and exploration make Gotham feel like a real city filled with danger around every corner. And then there's the ending. An ending that genuinely shocked players when the game released. Arkham City is more than just a superhero game. Even after all these years, it still sits near the very top of almost every best superhero game ever made list. Dishonored, a story about revenge, but how you choose to take that revenge is entirely up to you. Dishonored helped define the modern immersive sim genre. As Corvo Attano, you can approach every mission in countless different ways. You can move through the shadows without killing a single person, or you can unleash chaos and leave destruction behind you. The game rewards both approaches equally. Dunwall's plague-ridden industrial dystopia remains one of gaming's most memorable settings. Using Blink to teleport across rooftops, stopping time in the middle of combat, possessing animals, and disappearing into the shadows gives you an incredible sense of freedom. The level design deserves special praise. Every mission feels like a carefully designed sandbox filled with alternate routes, hidden secrets, and opportunities for experimentation. Dishonored constantly asks you to think about your action, because every choice has consequences, and those consequences shape the world around you. Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain. Illuminate stealth games started behaving like physics engine. The Phantom Pain represents open-world stealth at its absolute peak. Playing as Big Boss, every mission feels like a puzzle waiting to be solved. How you infiltrate a base, who you eliminate, who you capture, and what equipment you bring is entirely your decision. And the systems are so deep that you can complete the same mission 10 different ways and have 10 completely different experiences. Building Mother Base, recruiting soldiers through the Fulton recovery system, researching new technology, and gathering resources from around the world creates an incredibly addictive gameplay loop. The enemy AI adapts to your playstyle as well. Attack at night too often, and enemies begin carrying flashlight. Rely heavily on headshots, and suddenly soldiers start wearing helmets. Very few games react to player behavior this intelligently. The story is mysterious, the atmosphere is heavy, and the gameplay remains one of the finest examples of stealth design ever created. Even years later, Kojima's final Metal Gear masterpiece continues to show developers how stealth games should be made. Hollow Knight. It is hard to believe that a world this massive was created by a team of only 2 people. Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania set within the underground kingdom of Hallownest. Every corner hides a secret, every new area invites exploration, and every boss battle challenges you without ever feeling unfair. The platforming feels smooth, the combat feels precise, and the world design is so interconnected that exploration becomes a reward in itself. The atmosphere is melancholic but beautiful. The soundtrack perfectly captures the personality of each region, whether you're wandering through forgotten ruins or descending into ancient caverns. The lore unfolds like a puzzle scattered across the world. Nothing is directly explained to you. Instead, you slowly piece together the history of Hallownest through dialogue, environmental storytelling, and your own curiosity. Hollow Knight delivers enormous depth inside an incredibly humble package, and when it's finally over, you find yourself missing the world you left behind. If you turned the car chase scenes from Hollywood action movies into a video game, you would get this. Need for Speed Payback isn't trying to be realistic. In fact, it does the exact opposite. It embraces over-the-top action and delivers a cinematic story built around car culture, revenge, and high-speed thrill. Heists, police chases, drag races, off-road events, and drift competitions all come together to create the feeling of playing through a blockbuster action movie. The open world of Fortune Valley is surprisingly diverse. From scorching deserts to crowded city streets and twisting mountain roads, every area offers a completely different driving experience. The game's customization system allows you to transform your cars visually and mechanically, giving every vehicle its own personality. One of Payback's most interesting ideas is telling the story through 3 different playable characters, each specializing in different driving disciplines. Combined with the classic revenge storyline and spectacular set pieces, it creates an experience that never takes itself too seriously. The Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. One of those rare games that almost nobody talks about, but everyone who plays it asks the same question. How is this so good? The Chronicles of Riddick offers a unique blend of first-person stealth and action that still feels refreshing today. Playing as Riddick means moving through the darkness, silently taking down enemies, sneaking past guards, or switching instantly into brutal close-quarters combat whenever things go wrong. That balance is what makes the game so memorable. The atmosphere is dark and oppressive, with tension constantly hanging in the air. Vin Diesel's performance gives the character an incredible amount of weight and personality, making Riddick feel more authentic than many video game protagonists. The prison sections in particular are masterfully designed. The cramped corridors, dim lighting, and constant feeling of being trapped make you feel like you're imprisoned alongside the character. Even years later, the immersion remains impressive. This game may not get mentioned very often, but among the people who played it, it has quietly earned legendary status. And honestly, it deserves it. Darksiders 2 Deathinitive Edition. What does it feel like to play as Death himself? This game gives you the answer. Darksiders 2 combines action RPG mechanics with Zelda-style dungeon design in a way very few games have managed to replicate. Playing as Death, the brother of War, means becoming both a devastating warrior and an intelligent puzzle solver. One moment you're slicing through enemies with giant scythe, and the next you're solving environmental puzzles deep inside ancient ruins. Combat feels fast, fluid, and satisfying, while the platforming sections add variety to the adventure. The world rewards exploration with hidden loot, secret areas, and powerful gear waiting to be discovered. The Deathinitive Edition enhances the original game's visual, performance, and system, making it feel surprisingly modern even today. Its loot system adds replayability, while its story dives deeper into the mythology of the Four Horsemen and the apocalypse itself. Darksiders 2 remains one of the most underrated action-adventure games of its generation, and it absolutely deserves to be remembered. Slime Rancher, the most different game on this list, and maybe the most surprising one too. Slime Rancher is a relaxing adventure where you travel to a distant planet, collect adorable slimes, and build your own ranch. But beneath its cute appearance lies a surprisingly deep management and exploration game that constantly rewards curiosity. Every slime species has its own personality, favorite food, behavior patterns, and unique abilities. Some are harmless, some are incredibly valuable, and some can cause absolute chaos if you're not paying attention. Learning how each slime works becomes part of the fun. As your ranch grows, you unlock new technology, explore mysterious regions, and discover rare resources hidden throughout the world. The sense of progression is addictive without ever becoming stressful. Its colorful visuals, cheerful art style, relaxing soundtrack, and satisfying gameplay loop make it the perfect game to play when you want a break from explosions, monsters, and high-pressure competition. Sometimes a game doesn't need to be massive or revolutionary. Sometimes it just needs to make you smile, and Slime Rancher does that exceptionally well.